Welcome back to Kick and Crochet. Today we're going to work on a really fun wall hanging project. You may have seen it hanging in the background of some of my other videos, and here I'm going to show you how to make it. So I actually undid that whole wall hanging and I'm going to remake it. I found a mistake early on and it was driving me bonkers, and I was like, I do not want to give this to the yarn shop like that. So I've got a little bit of work cut out for me. So you'll need some fingering weight yarn and a size F crochet hook. This is a hand-dyed yarn from a local yarn dyer, Wild Star Fibers. I don't remember the colorway, and I forgot to write it down. So whatever color you'd like. I'm going to start with a magic ring. You can start whatever ring technique you want. And I'm going to work 12 double crochet in my magic ring. So I'll chain 3 and that'll count as my first. And I'm going to work 11 more double crochet in the ring. I'll close up my ring. And I'll join to my starting stitch. You know, I did one extra, so I'm just going to skip my turn chain. That's okay. Alright, so I have 12 double crochet here. I'm going to work 3 double crochet in my first stitch. So a note on starting with double crochet. Traditionally you start with a chain 3. A lot of the times I will start with just a chain 1 or a chain 2 and then a double crochet and not count my turn chain. So you really can do it whatever way you want to do it, and it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to just chain 3 and count that as my first double crochet. So I'm doing 3 double crochet in the first stitch. I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and do 3 double crochet in the next stitch. I'm going to repeat this all the way around. So I'm doing clusters of 3 double crochet, chain 1, skip 1. So I should end up with 6 clusters of 3 double crochet. Oops. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, good. And I still have a chain 1 there, and then I'll join to the top of my starting chain, maybe. I really do tend to chain tightly, so it's kind of a problem for me. Alright, so there's the end of round 2. So I'm going to start with just a chain 3, and that's going to count as my first double crochet here. And then I'm going to do a back loop only single crochet in the second double crochet of the cluster. And now I'm going to do 5 double crochets in this chain 1 space. and then a back loop single crochet in the middle stitch of that cluster, and then I'm going to repeat this around. 5 double crochet in the chain 1 space, back loop single crochet in the second stitch of the cluster, so it's 5 double crochet. Here's a back loop single crochet, now 5 double crochet, a back loop single crochet, 5 double, a back loop single. I'm going to end with 4 more double crochet in this starting space. So my chain 3 counted as my first double crochet. I need 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll join to my starting chain. Alright, so that's the end of round 3. To get ready for round 4, we need to slip stitch in our next stitch, which is going to be what was a back loop single crochet. So we're just going to slip stitch just to get in the right position. So now we are ready. We're going to chain 4. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 1, and we'll do another double crochet in the same space. Let's keep grabbing the wrong string. Now we're going to chain 1. We're going to do 5 double crochet in the center stitch of this cluster. So the third, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do 5 double crochet right here. Oops, forgot to yarn over. So, a chain 1, and then in this back loop single crochet here, this stitch, we're going to do our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Then another chain 1, 5 double crochet in the center of this cluster, and we're just going to continue doing this around. 5 double crochet in the center of each cluster. In the back loop single crochet, we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And there's chain 1s before and after each cluster. So I'll do a couple more here. So in the middle of this cluster, 1, 2, 3, 5 double crochet. And chain 1. And now here, our back loop single crochet, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and then our cluster again. 1, 2, 3, 5 double crochet, chain 1. Find our back loop single crochet here, do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same space, and chain 1. And now 1, 2, third stitch of the cluster, 5 double crochet, chain 1. Now we'll skip the last 2 stitches of that cluster. We'll do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Again, skipping 2. And the 3rd stitch here, we'll do 5 double crochet. And chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, 5 double crochet in the top of here, 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 1, and we're going to join to the 3rd stitch of our starting chain here. So this is our top of our double crochet. There's the chain 1, and then we're going to join right here, because that would be the top of our double crochet. So here's the end of round 4. Coming along nicely here. It's almost like a cute little coaster. Not quite big enough for a coaster yet, but getting there. For round 5, we're going to start with 7 double crochet in the center of this V-stitch. So here the V-stitch was a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. We're just going to work right around that chain 1, right in that chain space. So 7 double crochet. I'm going to start with a chain 3, and that counts as my first double crochet. And now I'll do 6 more. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's 7. Just had to make sure. I'm going to chain 2. Now a slip stitch in the center stitch of this cluster. So the 3rd stitch of the cluster, and a slip stitch. Then I'll chain 2 again. 7 double crochet in this chain 1 space in the middle of our V-stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, chain 2, slip stitch in the 3rd stitch of the cluster, chain 2, 7 double crochet in the middle of the V-stitch. We're going to do this all the way around. Alright, now we're going to start kind of fanning this out a little bit. So in this first stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochet. So here's my chain 3, that's going to count as my first one, and then we'll do another one in the same stitch. So that's 2 double crochet. And now along this cluster, we're going to alternate 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet. So we'll do 1 in the next stitch, and 2 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, 2 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and 2 in the next stitch. So you had 7 stitches in your first cluster, and you're going to end up with 11. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you should have 11 in that cluster total. And then we're going to chain 3. We're just going to skip over that slip stitch. We're going to completely ignore it, and we're going to go to the first double crochet here. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to alternate 2 and 1, always starting with 2 double crochet in the first stitch. So we'll end up with 11 double crochet for each cluster. So we're going to do that all the way around and then join. Okay, round 7. I'm going to start with chain 5. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. And we're going to skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 2, oops, skip 1, double crochet. So we're doing this all the way across our little fan here. Chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, and double crochet. Now we're going to do a chain 1, slip stitch over this chain space, chain 1. And now we're going to start the same thing again. We're going to do double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1. This section of the project is kind of like a pineapple. Well, it is going to be a pineapple, but it ends up being like two pineapples kind of smashed closer than they normally would be. So the base of the in-between pineapples is going to start earlier than normal. But we're just kind of establishing these pineapple-y right here. Alright, so now we'll do chain 1, slip stitch over this chain space, chain 1, and then continue. We'll do this all the way around. Alrighty, round 8. We're going to start by slip stitching in this first chain space. And now we will chain 4. If you're familiar with pineapple, this part's just regular pineapple. So we're going to slip stitch over the next chain space, chain 4. Slip stitch, chain 4, slip stitch, chain 4, slip stitch. So now we've gotten all of those chain spaces for that part of the pineapple. Now we're going to chain 7. We're going to skip this double crochet, the slip stitch, and that double crochet, and slip stitch in the next chain 4, or the chain whatever space, that chain space right there. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing, chain 4, whoops, and slip stitch in the next chain space. We'll do this 4 times. Now we'll chain 7. Chain 4. So again, I skipped all that stuff in there and joined to the next chain space over here. We'll continue doing this all the way around. So chain 7. Skip all this over to this chain space here. And chain 4. And chain 7. So now we're back here to the start. I'm going to join to the slip stitch here. Or my starting, the base of that starting chain 4. Okay, for round 9, we're going to continue with this. I'm going to slip stitch over our chain space, and you can make this first slip stitch a little loose so it kind of reaches to the middle, or you could even do a chain and a slip stitch or something if it's not reaching well. But I'm just going to slip stitch here. Now chain 4, and slip stitch. We'll do 3 of those total. So it's chain 4, slip stitch in the next space. Once more. Okay, so now we've come to where we did the chain 7 before. So now I'm going to do a chain 1. Now I'm going to work 7 double crochet over this chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then another chain 1. So this is going to be the base of the next pineapple. Now we'll slip stitch in this chain 4 space. And then we'll do our chain 4, slip stitch in the next space 3 times. And then we'll do chain 1, 7 double crochet across this chain, and another chain 1, and we'll continue on with this pineapple. We'll do a slip stitch in the next chain space here, and then 3 times we'll do chain 4 and then slip stitch in the next chain space. And chain 1, 7 double crochet here. So keep going like that all the way around, and then join to your start. Alright, moving on to round 10. We're going to slip stitch in the next space. Again, continuing this pineapple design here. Chain 4, slip stitch, and then once more we'll chain 4 and slip stitch. And now we're going to start the next pineapple design over here. So we're going to chain 1, and then we'll do 2 double crochet in the first stitch of this fan. So you have to be a little bit careful here because this right here is not a stitch in that fan. Okay, there were 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 double crochets in that fan. Don't accidentally do these stitches here that were part of the chain on the row below. Okay, so we did a chain 1. We're going to start with 2 double crochet. So this is just the same as the base of our first fan. 2 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch. So there'll be 11 total double crochet over this fan. We'll alternate 2 double crochet in this stitch, 1 double crochet in the next, 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and 2 double crochet in the last stitch of the fan. Okay, and then a chain 1. And now in this chain space here, we're going to slip stitch, chain 4, slip stitch in the next chain space, chain 4, slip stitch in the last chain space there, chain 1, and we're ready for the next fan. Again, making sure you don't accidentally work in the top of that. We're going to continue like this all the way across, or all the way around. So we'll alternate 2 and 1, so 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double, 1 double, and 2 double here. So you will end up with 11 double crochet over the base of these second pineapples that are coming. There will always be a single crochet before and after this little fan. So we'll do a chain before and after the fan, and then we'll work on the top of this pineapple. So we'll slip stitch into here, chain 4, slip stitch, chain 4, slip stitch, chain 1, and then we'll keep on going. So do this all the way around this round. Alright, for round 11, I'm going to start again with a slip stitch in this first chain 4 space, chain 4, slip stitch over the next chain space, now chain 2, we're going to expand this fan just like we did for our first pineapple. In the first double crochet, make sure you're not working in this chain space again, or on the chain. We'll double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, oops, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet. We're doing this all the way across this fan, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, and we'll slip stitch in this chain 4 space, chain 4, slip stitch in the next chain 4 space, chain 2, and again with the fan, starting with the first double crochet here, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, we'll continue like this all the way around. So you can see that we are starting to fan out our next pineapple, and we are finishing up our first pineapple. So we've got this top loop now in our starting pineapples, and we're starting our second round of pineapples. So continue all the way around and then join to your starting chain. Okay, round 12 is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So we're again going to start with slip stitching into this chain space so that we're centered here. Now we're going to do a 7 loop puff stitch. So we're going to pull this up a little bit, yarn over, pull up a loop, so it's 3 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, 7 loops, yarn over and pull through all of them and close the puff. So that is our 7 loop puff stitch. Now we're going to chain 4. We're going to do a slip stitch in the next chain space, so this one right here, and chain 4. I'm going to do that 6 more times. Slip stitch, chain 4, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we ended with a chain 4 there. Now we're going to do another 7 loop puff stitch in this chain space. Now this one is the one that is the top of the pineapple. So we're going to work into every chain space around this round. The ones that are the top of the pineapple are going to get a puff stitch, the other ones are going to get slip stitches, and everything has a chain 4 in between it. So we're going to pull this up. So this is up here. Sorry, forgot to yarn over. So we're doing a 7 loop puff, that counts as our first yarn over. So now I have 3 loops. Yarn over, 5 loops, yarn over, 7 loops. And close the puff. Then chain 4. And continue on. Slip stitch in the next chain space. And chain 4. So we're going to continue like this all the way around the round. We're establishing here another big pineapple and these puff stitches in between the pineapples. Alright, for round 13 we're going to do 3 puff stitches in each of these puffs. So there's still going to be 7 stitch puffs, 7 loop puffs. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, puff and close. And we're going to do a chain 1 in between each puff also. So that's 1 puff, we'll do 2. And chain 1. And then a 3rd puff. So we have 3 puffs in that previous puff stitch. I just might have been off camera, but you can see that 3 puffs in the first puff stitch. Now we're going to chain 3. I'm going to slip stitch in this chain space. I'm going to skip this first chain space. I'm not going to work into that one. I'm going to slip into this stitch here because it's for the pineapple. So a slip stitch here, chain 4, slip stitch. We'll do all the way across this pineapple, slip stitches and chain 4s. We'll end with a slip stitch here in the last pineapple one. Again, we're not going to work into this chain space here. Then we'll chain 3. So there should have been 5 loops for this pineapple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we'll do 3 puffs in the top of this puff stitch. Again, 7 loop puffs separated by a chain 1 space. And now we're going to do a chain 3 and join with a slip stitch to this first chain space for the pineapple. And you'll continue like this all the way around and then join to the top of your starting puff stitch. For this next round, this is round 14, I'm going to slip stitch in the next chain stitch in between the 2 puffs. And now I'm going to do a puff stitch right here. Again, 7 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to skip that puff. I'm going to do a puff stitch in that chain. And if you want, you can just do it over the bar of the chain, that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do right here. And then again, chain 3. I'm going to skip 1, and now I'm going to do a puff in this chain 3 space. Now again, chain 3. And now here we're working on this pineapple. I'm going to slip stitch in the chain space. Chain 4. Do this 4 times. And with a slip stitch in that last one. So I've got, after this puff, 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on the pineapple. I'm going to chain 3 again. And now in this chain 3 space, I'm going to do a puff stitch. Chain 3. I'm going to skip the puff stitch, and we're going to do puffs in between each of the puffs and after the last puff. And each of those is going to be separated by a chain 3. So I'm just working in the chain space. You can work into the chain or into the chain space. Either way is fine. And again, right after the last puff in that chain space, we'll do another puff. So we're just going to continue in this manner all the way around. So we'll have 4 loops on our pineapples, and then puffs before and in between and after. So we'll have 4 puffs, 4 loops, and everything is separated by chain 3s, except of course these loops are chain 4s. And then when you get back around to this side, you'll end up with 1 more puff here, a chain 3, and joining to the top of that puff. Okay, this is round 15. We're going to slip stitch in this chain space, and then we'll chain 5. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. We'll do 1 more double crochet in the same chain space. Now we're going to do a puff in this puff stitch. Double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the next chain space. Puff in the puff stitch. Sorry. We'll chain 3. We'll continue with our pineapple. We're going to skip this chain space here and work on the pineapple one. So slip stitch in here, chain 4, all the way across this pineapple, then chain 3. Now again, we're going to skip this chain space here. We're going to do a puff in the top of this puff. Now double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Puff in the puff. If I can grab my yarn. I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. puff in the puff stitch, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, puff in the puff stitch, we'll chain 3, and again skip this chain space, work into here for the pineapple, slip stitch and chain 4 3 times, just the second time, and the third time, and one more slip stitch to finish that loop. Now chain 3, and then we'll keep going. Skip this chain space and puff in the puff. So you're going to do this all the way around. So in every, oh, I got that loop pulled a little bit, but in every puff stitch you're going to work a puff stitch. In the chain spaces between puffs you've got double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. You skip the last chain space after the last puff and work the pineapple top as normal. So keep doing that all the way around, and then when you get back to the top after this last puff, you join to your start. Okay, moving on to round 16. Oh, just a note, at the end of round 15, make sure you joined to the third stitch in that chain 5, because it was what would have been the top of the double crochet, so there should still be 2 chains in between the 2 double crochets in that space. Okay, so I'm going to slip stitch in this chain 2 space, and then I'm just going to do a chain 1, and that's going to count as a single crochet here. Now I'm going to single crochet in this double crochet. I'm going to do half doubles in the next 2 stitches, so that is this puff stitch and this double crochet. Oops, I just did a double crochet instead of a half double. Okay. Now I'm going to do a double crochet in the next chain space and in the next double crochet. Now I'll chain 6, I'm going to go all the way over to the pineapple here. I'm going to skip this puff and this chain space. I'm going to do my slip stitch in this stitch and this space. Chain 4, slip stitch, chain 4, and another slip stitch. Now another chain 6, I'm going to do a double crochet in the first DC after the first puff, so this double crochet right here. Double crochet, and in the chain space another double crochet. Now a half double crochet in the next 2, so in that double crochet and in this puff stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet in this double crochet, 2 single crochets in this chain space, then a single crochet in this double crochet, and then we'll keep on going to half double crochets. So in the puff stitch it's a half double crochet, and in the next double crochet, and then 2 double crochets, 1 in the chain space and 1 in the last double crochet there. And now we're going to do a chain 6 again, and continue with our pineapple. So we're skipping this puff and this chain space, slip stitch in this chain space, chain 4, do that again, slip stitch, chain 4, 1 more slip stitch, and chain 6, and then again the first double crochet after the first puff stitch, we'll do a double crochet, then DC in the chain space, then 2 half double crochets, 1 in this next double crochet, and 1 in the next puff, slip stitch in the double crochet, 2 slip stitches in this chain 2 space. This is the one at the very top of this curve, and then another slip stitch, or sorry, single crochet in the next double crochet. So we're going to keep on going like that all the way around. So we're kind of flattening out this curve a little bit as we go. And we're almost done with these pineapples, so we're going to have one more loop on the next round for the pineapples. So continue all the way around like that, and then when you get back to your start, you join to your starting stitch. Okay, moving on now to round 17. We're going to have a total of 18 single crochets across each of these tops. So we'll start with just a single crochet in the next stitch. And now we're going to alternate 2 single crochets and 1 single crochet. So we'll do 2 in this next stitch. And then 1. 2 in the next stitch. And then 1. And you should end with 2 single crochets in the last double crochet here. Now we'll do a chain 8. We'll skip over this chain 6 and we'll slip stitch in this chain 4. And we'll finish off this pineapple here with a chain 4 and a slip stitch. And we'll chain 8 again. And now we're going to again go back to our single crochets. So we'll start with 2 in this first double crochet. Then 1 in the next, 2 in the next, 1 in the next, and 2 here, and 1 here. And now instead of doing 2, we're going to kind of reset. So these 2 middle ones are both going to have just 1 single crochet. So then 1, and then we'll keep alternating again. So 2 in the next stitch, and 1, then 2, then 1, and then 2. And that just makes it symmetrical. We could keep alternating, but I like it to have kind of 2 on each end. And so the 2 center stitches each just have 1. Everything else is alternating 2 or 1. So you're just going to keep doing this all the way around. So you'll have the last loop here for your little pineapple. And we'll have just 18 single crochets across these stitches here. Alright, round 18. This is where things really start to grow fast. We're in that kind of big open meshy part of the pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 8. Oops, maybe. So we chained 8, we're going to do a slip stitch in the last single crochet of this set, and then chain 8 again. Now we'll do a double crochet in this chain 4 space at the top of this pineapple, and chain 8. Another slip stitch in the first single crochet of this group, first one after the chain, and chain 8. And we'll slip stitch to the second single crochet of the middle 2. So here we've got 2 single crochet, 1, 1, and then 2. We're going to slip stitch into the second one of the single ones in the very center of that group, and then chain 8. And we'll slip stitch in the last single crochet of this group, and chain 8. double crochet in the top of this pineapple in the chain 4 space, and chain 8. Oops. So we will just keep going around like this. All of the spaces are chain 8. We'll do slip stitches for these and double crochets for these. And we'll just go all the way around like that. And we are setting ourselves up for this mesh. So we've got these chain 8 spaces and we're going to work into them on the next round. For round 19, you have 2 options. One option is that you can slip stitch 4 until you're at the center of this and then go on, or you can cut your yarn and rejoin it. The first time I made this, I slip stitched. This time I'm going to cut my yarn and rejoin because I think it will work better when I put it on the hoop. You can do it either way. Also, it's a little bit obvious, just the extra thickness of the strand. So I'm going to cut that and rejoin, and you can rejoin to any loop. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to join here, and then I'm going to slip stitch, or chain 10. And now I'm just going to slip stitch in the next chain 8 space. And I'm going to continue like that around. Loops of 10 stitches. I just lost count because I was talking. Okay. And then slip stitch in the next space. And the reason that I say it's going to work a little bit better if you cut and rejoin is because that way this can move along here. So when you're stretching it onto a ring, it's going to lay nicer if that has a little bit more flexibility, because the yarn's going to stretch a little bit, and if you slip stitch, then it reduces the stretch of one side but not the other. But again, that's up to you. So for round 19, you're going to do this chain 10 loops, and then for rounds 20, 21, you're going to do similar things. So for round 20, you're going to join. Again, I would cut it and join in some random loop, not exactly right on top, just so it's kind of spread out. But you'll join and you'll do loops of 12 chains. And then for round 22, it's going to be the same, 21. For round 21, it's going to be the same thing, but loops of 14. So I'm going to come back when we get to round 22. So again, this is round 19, we're doing loops of 10 chains. Round 20 will be loops of 12 chains, and round 21 will be loops of 14 chains. Okay, so we have finished round 21. You can see all of these nice mesh loops. So we've got our mesh design here, and now this next round, I'm going to apologize in advance because it is going to take a while. So if you have done Jasmine stitch before, then you know how to do like a Jasmine puff chain. And if you don't know, that's okay, I will teach you right now. So we are going to join to any one of these loops, it doesn't matter which one, any one of these outside round. So start with a slip knot on your hook and then just yarn over and pull through. And now we're going to chain 1, and that's going to be kind of the base of our puff chains. And now we're going to pull up just like for a regular puff stitch, yarn over, insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up. So this part is just like a regular puff stitch. So we have 3 on our hook and then 5 on our hook. So I'm just going to do 5s. So now I'm going to put my finger here and hook this yarn. You can also just pinch it with these 2 fingers if you prefer, but I always kind of like to hook it. So now I'm going to yarn over and pull through, but I'm going to be careful not to pull this loop all the way through. Now I'm going to insert my hook in that loop, and I'll tighten it up just a little bit so that it's not like really gappy. And I'll yarn over and pull through that 1, and yarn over and pull through both. So it's like a single crochet through that extra loop. Okay, and now I'm going to do 2 more here. So I'm going to pull up, yarn over, insert into that stitch we just made, and pull up, and then I'll do it again, yarn over, insert and pull up. So these are smaller puffs. These are only 5 loop instead of 7 loop, but they work just fine. Okay, and then we're going to grab our yarn here. And these take a little bit of practice, so if you don't get it the first try, don't be discouraged. I'll pull through, then insert my hook in that loop, then yarn over and pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2. So now I have 2 puff chains. I'm going to make 1 more. camera's having trouble focusing. Pull through, then insert through that hook loop, pull through one, yarn over and pull through both. So now I have 3 chain puffs here attached to that loop. Now I'm just going to slip stitch to the next space. So these chain puffs are basically just taking the place of the chain. So instead of doing a chain of 16 or whatever, I'm doing 3 chain puffs. So you're going to do this all the way around. So I'm going to keep going here. You can do a chain 1 here because it's a little bit hard to work into that slip stitch, so it's a little easier if you chain 1 because you have a space to work into. So then you'll pull up, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull up. Make sure I don't pull that too tight. Through that loop. 1, 2. So we're going to do 3 chain puffs in between each loop and then slip stitch. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and then you'll join to your start here. Alright, we're on round 23. We've only got 3 rounds to go. We are coming up on the end here. Okay, for this next section, we're going to do 2 Jasmine puff chains and then slip stitch to the space between the 2. So it's basically going to make like little Jasmine puff V's. So I'm going to pull up here. And again, I'm just doing 5 loop here and grab that. So this is just the same as we were doing them on the last row. And then I'm going to do a second one here. Pinch, go through, and single crochet. So I've got 2 Jasmine puffs here. And now I'm going to go and slip stitch in this space between the 2 puffs. And then I'll do the same thing. So pull up here. Pinch. And then a second one. So I've got 2 more. Go to the space between the next 2 puffs and slip stitch. I'll show one more time. Yarn over, pull up a loop twice, twice, and grab that yarn, pull through, then hook into that loop, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both, and do it one more time. So you have 2 puffs in a row. And then we'll slip stitch, and here the space between the 2 is right at this join. So we'll slip stitch right in there, and then we'll keep going. So we're going to do this all the way around. We're making these little Jasmine puff V's. Alright, we're on round 24. We only have 2 rounds left. We have this round, and then on the next round we will join to our ring. So for this round, we're going to join to the space between 2 puffs. So the top of this little V that we made. Again, you can join anywhere around the ring. So now in this space, I'm going to do a 9 loop puff. So we were doing 7 loop puffs at the beginning. I'm going to do a 9 loop. So I'm going to do yarn over and pull up a loop 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 9 loops on my puff, on my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then this is just a regular puff. Alright. Now I'm going to do a chain 9. And then I'll do another 9 loop puff in here. And that's it. We're just going to do this all the way across. So yarn over, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a chain 9. And then at the top of our next V, another 9 loop puff. Oops, just 4. So we'll do this all the way around. Alright, we are on the last round now, so this is round 25. Now this is where things can get a little bit different depending on your yarn, your tension, and what hoop you bought. You might have to modify this row a little bit to make things stretch correctly onto your hoop. I'm going to show you how I did it, and then I will explain a few different ways that you can modify. So first of all, you need a hoop. So the one that I bought, because it's so big, this one's a 28-inch hoop, it actually comes in 4 separate pieces. So, and they have these little bumps. So once I put this on my hoop, I'm not going to be able to slide my loops really easily from one segment to the next. And so I am going to make sure that I have 1/4 of my loops on each quarter of my hoop. Now there are 72 loops at this point in your project, and so 18 of them should be on each quarter of your hoop. Now if you had a smaller hoop or you really just wanted to be done, you could just, put your hoop through the loops or whatever, but I'm gonna crochet onto it and I'll show you how I did it. So we're gonna join our yarn onto our hoop, onto our project again, and we will just join with a slip stitch around any one of these chain spaces, and then I'm going to chain 6. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 3. And I forgot to mention, there is a right side and a wrong side. The crochet looks different on each side, so make sure you're joining to the right side each time when you join. Okay. So what we are going to do now is we're going to work over this bar, and normally I would have this all the way complete, but I have it just taken apart so it's easier to make a video. And I also do recommend weaving in all of your ends before you do this, because it's a little bit easier before it's attached to the hoop. If you've got your project here and your yarn over your hoop, you're going to reach around the hoop and grab the yarn, and then grab the yarn on top, yarn over, and pull it through just that loop. So it's 1. I'm going to do that 5 times. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops. So there should have been 6 loops on your hook at that point. So now I've got this little bundle here. Okay. Now I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to do a double crochet around the next bar. And then chain 3. And then I'll just do the same thing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see here I have 6 loops on my hook. I'll yarn over and pull through all of the loops to join them together, then chain 3. And then double crochet in my next loop. So I'm just going to do this all the way around. So it's going to have these little bundles attaching it to my ring. Now, a few different ways you can modify this. If you are finding that your project is just not going to stretch around that ring with this, you can modify it in a couple ways to make it so your project's a little bit bigger. You can do triple crochets or extended triple crochets instead of double crochets here. And you can also make these chains longer. Instead of chain 3, you can do 4 or 5, however many you need to make your project big enough. Now, if you're finding that your project is too big and it's just going to be way, way, way too big, you can, instead of doing a double crochet here, do a single crochet or even a slip stitch. I really wouldn't make these chains much smaller because you do need it to stretch around the hoop all the way. If you're worried that you're going to run out of yarn, you should have plenty if you had a full like 100-gram ball of fingering weight yarn, but if you feel like you're going to run out, you can do fewer of these. So I did 5 just because I liked the size of that bundle, but you can do just 1, you can do 2, however many you want. You can also just not do this row at all and just take a piece of yarn and kind of string it through each. I don't really have a spare yarn here. Let's pretend this tail is a piece of yarn. So I could just take the yarn, loop it around there, and loop it over my hoop. And then loop it in the next one, and loop it over my hoop, and just wrap it around going through the loops. If you don't want to crochet this last round, you can totally do it that way and it'll still look nice. It's totally up to you. So that is it for this project. I'm just going to finish this up on my own because it's super awkward to try and do this flat on a table. But I hope you enjoyed this project, and don't forget to subscribe, and happy crocheting!